We think that if we can't do it perfectly, then we shouldn't start. If we don't have the perfect conditions, if we don't have, all of the specifics in place that we think we need, then we need to hold off. But that's actually the biggest lie, right? There is no
Mhm.
better time to start than now, and messy action is always better than no action at all.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Going in. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome in everyone. We're here for another episode of Adventures in Business Live. Mandy, how are we doing today?
Amani, it's bonkers. Today is bananas. It's I've got a group checking into a hotel in Mexico this week, and obviously
Ooh.
they're not going to be checking into the hotel in Mexico. I've got some people stranded in New York and trying to get them out of New York. It's just been it's the life of a lady who books hotels for conferences today. It's just been very active, very Olivia Pope, fixing, problem solving, that kind
Oh,
of thing. Yeah.
we like the Olivia Pope reference. That's
Yeah.
interesting. We
Yeah.
like
What
that
about
one.
you? What's happening in your weekend? What's happening today?
Well, I will say that I checked off something on my bingo card this weekend.
Did? Tell me.
Yes. So I had my colonoscopy.
Did it? Oh, Monty, is that why you're lethargic today? You're
Yes,
still like
yes,
drugged up? When
yes,
was
yes.
it? When
It
was
was
it?
Friday,
Okay.
and just how you said when you have to drink that jug full of the nasty water, and it was Thursday was the long day. It was a long day on Thursday, so Friday
Yeah.
morning was done. So that was just interesting experience, and so
Amani, I'm so proud of you. I know you were scared to do it, but was it as scary as you thought it would be coming out of it?
no, the hardest part was actually preparing for it. If I'm being
Yeah.
honest, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what everybody says. Are you good? Are you healthy? Do we have
So far,
any?
so good. Have a follow up appointment in 2 or 3 weeks, but I think they
Okay.
said that it was all good. Just come for your follow up. So yeah,
Okay, good. This
yeah,
is the sign of the times.
yeah,
All of us in our 40s and 50s, we're talking about our colonoscopies.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is what we're that
So
and perimenopause. This is what we're
yeah,
talking about right now.
so normally we'll let our guests know that this is not normally the topic of discussion. It doesn't tend to get towards
No.
medical wise, but today it is.
Well,
So
I'm happy you're crossing something off your bingo list, your goal
bingo
bingo
card.
list for the year. That's important. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Who do we have the pleasure of speaking to today?
Well, we have somebody who is the most magical of manifesting. She believes in dance parties. She has co authored two books. She uses her psychology training to coach women to reach their highest potential. And we're really excited to have her on the show. Millie Fox, welcome.
Yes, yes. So let's get Millie onto the stage here. Welcome. There she is. We give you a virtual round of applause. Uh, all right. How are we doing?
Hi,
Hey.
Millie.
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to
Yeah.
be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you here with us. Uh, let's let you, if you were to take 30 seconds and tell us who Millie Fox is, how would you answer that question?
I always like to say I'm a no BS manifestation coach. I'm
Oh,
also a self leadership coach, which really is what manifestation is about, right? I like to take the fluff out of it because manifestation is it's really everything, but I think a lot of people assume that it's fluffy or woo woo and just some kind of spiritual thing that, that's not what serious go-getters lean into. So, I've had a lot of life experience. I've had, chaotic upbringing and went through a lot of different things. So, I identify as an overachiever, a recovering perfectionist, type A, and I use all of that experience to help people with manifestation, with creating their vision board lives without falling into the traps of overthinking and forcing it and white knuckling their way to what they want, because ultimately we all just want to enjoy our life, right? And checking checklists don't necessarily lead to that. And I think most of us are coming to that realization. So that's my passion. And it really stemmed from watching, unfortunately, my own mother lose her light, lose her spark, and I just never wanted that to happen specifically, to another woman in this world. So that's what fuels my mission.
Okay, now Mandy, you look so happy to hear about manifestation.
I love manifestation. I think it's wonderful. I understand though, Millie, because like, like I'm looking up at my vision board right now, and every time I say something like that, 50% of the people are like, "Oh, tell me more," and the other percent are like, "Ah, woo woo." So, how
Yeah.
do you approach that? Right? Like, you work with high performing women. How do you approach just a manifestation naysayer or somebody that just doesn't relate to what you do and how you do it? How do you turn them around, or how do you not convince them, but how do you help them see the other side of this?
I basically just start by asking them if they have goals.
Mhm.
And if you have goals and you are intentionally working towards your goals, you are already started on an intentional manifestation
Mhm.
practice, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, right? And then I also usually ask people if they've felt another person's energy before, or if they've felt an energy of a room before, and that when they're having a good day, it seems to go better, or when they're having a bad day, it seems to go worse. All of these things are very easy for most people to acknowledge are real. And when you put those two things together, it just kind of clicks and makes sense that if we are intentionally curating how we show up, that achieving the life that we want to achieve is going to be a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I love
Now,
that.
when you're looking for coaching clients with such a specific topic that can be a little bit tough for people to grasp, how are you able to kind of convince people that they need some assistance with this?
Well, I point out in my social presence on my personal brand, I point out a lot of struggles that are common to, the woman that I love to work with, a high achieving woman. And I lean into self leadership a lot because I think that speaks more to that persona, that type of woman. Because we don't self leaders, they don't really just want fluff, right? We don't just want to be told to make a vision board and look at it every day. We want to know, how can I, you know get in there and make things happen? What agency do I have? But at the same time, they're exhausted, right? So there's some things that they need that they don't realize that they need, that I also inject into my coaching method along the way. Like, I don't teach manifestation in a very traditional way. I'm just very passionate about including it in what I do, because I think that there's more to goal achievement than just, the typical SMART goal format.
Hmm.
Interesting. Go ahead, man.
Well, I just want to build on that for a second, because one of the things I've noticed that you talk about is people not pursuing their dreams, not following their dreams, or even a lot of women put their dreams on hold for various reasons. So, why do you think women put their dreams on hold? First question, then I'll have a follow up to that.
Well, women have a tendency of putting everybody else before themselves, right?
Mhm.
Or they logic themselves out of it. Like, well, once I get to X place in my life, then I'll be able. And they just don't give themselves permission. And a lot of it is perfectionism. I speak to perfectionism all the time, and people think that perfectionism just means that they're trying to, look perfect all the time, be perfect all the time, but it's actually very pervasive, right? It's procrastination is a form of perfectionism,
Mm.
right? Because we think that if we can't do it perfectly, then we shouldn't start. If we don't have the perfect conditions, if we don't have, all of the specifics in place that we think we need, then we need to hold off. But that's actually the biggest lie, right? There is no
Mhm.
better time to start than now, and messy action is always better than no action at all.
Yeah. So what do you tell a woman like that? Like, what do you, or not even a woman, just a human who's just putting off their life because they don't have the perfect blueprint for it? Like, how do you help them chip away at that perfectionism piece?
Well, my huge focus is actually on self-compassion. That is one of the major tools that I teach, which sounds a little bit warm and fuzzy, but it's actually very tactical in a sense. There's a framework called mindful self compassion that was created by Dr. Kristen Neff and Stephen Garmer. And it has three components: there's mindfulness, there's common humanity, and there's loving kindness. And then we break those down and explain them and help women understand what that is. And then there's also the difference between yang and yin compassion. So yin is like that soft, nurturing, loving kindness that we think of, but then the yang compassion is the fierce self-compassion. That's then where we go, okay, what is the internal firm but kind father voice and say inside of me say? What would the structure that would best serve me be here? Not the self-punishing hustle culture or productivity, as a gold medal type of attitude, but that, okay, where do I actually need to be more honest with myself? Because what's in our best interest is compassion, right? So I always say that the best antidote to perfectionism is compassion, but then we can talk, like we can bring in perspective shifts for a woman who's in that place that says, well, I just can't be start because of XYZ reason. And um, we look at it like, well, how's that making you feel about yourself? Because identity is such a huge part of this. And one of the major reasons that women come to work with me is because they don't feel the way they want to feel about themselves. They get compliments about how much they've achieved and they don't land. They don't feel the achievement. They want to feel a certain way about themselves. So then I ask them those kind of questions like, is delaying making you feel good or bad about yourself? Probably bad. If you
Yeah.
took one messy action, how would that make you feel about yourself? Right? Yeah, we're going to deal with the imposter syndrome or the fear or the self-doubt or the that's not good enough. But the only way to build that muscle is through those courageous actions. And the more we do that, the more we begin to trust ourselves.
Messy action. I like that. Because it
Now,
doesn't have to be perfect. Messy action is totally great. Yeah.
true. What is it about your business model? Like, why do men get the benefit of working with you? Also, why are you focused solely on women?
I have focused solely on women just because that's been my life experience, and my passion and my mission came from, my witnessing my mother lose her spark, and the potential that she had inside of her unfortunately went with her when she left this world a couple of years ago. So that's just been my major mission. I haven't worked with men because I haven't had a lot of men approach me, to be honest, to work with me.
Amani, this is your moment. You could be her first.
Well, I still want to ask some questions before I
Absolutely.
approach you.
Absolutely.
What, if you don't mind sharing, if you're comfortable, like if your mother was here today, what would you coach her on, or what advice would you give her based on your expertise?
Oh, I tried to coach her a lot while she was still with us.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I can imagine.
hard.
Uh, sh- I would continue to encourage her to do her art. She was an artist, and even if that meant just in a notebook at home, just to express herself, because I believe that the opposite of depression is expression. I
Hmm.
heard that from a wonderful woman. Her name was Edith Eger. She's a Holocaust survivor, and she wrote a book. I believe it's called The Gifts, and that was where I heard that expression from. The opposite of depression is expression, and I think that because we live in such a culture of consumption, that many of us are starved in the sense that we don't create. And I think that is a need that all humans have to create. So I would encourage her to do that. I would encourage everyone to do that. I audit. Sometimes I know when I audit my own energy and I'm feeling crunchy, I call it crunchy, where I feel like tight and like I'm overthinking and I'm trying to figure things out. When I get into that energy, I often ask myself, like, where are you not in creation or creative mode? How can you do something expressive to get those juices flowing?
Interesting. What kind of creation do you like to do when you get into that mode?
I like to write. I like to create content. I love content creation. It's a huge thing for me. I like to get on camera, share my thoughts. Sometimes I'll doodle, just I've got a little art notebook. I haven't picked it up in a little while now that we're talking about it. Just free doodling. Any kind of creation, really. I like to sing.
Mm,
I haven't written any music in quite a long time, but I used to write music. I used to write poetry as well. So really along those lines.
interesting. And then you mentioned the book is called The Gift, right?
Yeah.
Um, what are other books that you love to recommend that you draw inspiration from?
Oh, it's funny because the number one book that I recommend, I call it required reading for all of my clients. It's also starts with The Gifts of Imperfection.
Mm,
It's called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. I call that book my Bible. It's got the 10 guideposts to wholehearted living. And it's really about renouncing who we think we're supposed to be so that we can be who we actually are and live joyfully.
So since that's your Bible, who was the person you renounced to become who you are?
Oh, the one that tried to force everything, to white knuckle everything, to be super perfect. And because I grew up in a lot of chaos, that was the one thing I can control. So I was a very good student. I was a real brown noser in school. In high school, I was in all the clubs, extracurriculars, job, boyfriend. Like I just did everything I thought I was supposed to do to be perfect, and I had to massively recover from that. I mean, I call myself a recovering perfectionist because I think that you don't ever truly get over it because we are conditioned highly in this society to try to be perfect all the time, to get approval, validation, love, all those things.
Interesting. What's up, everybody? I want to tell you and encourage you to purchase my book, my award-winning USA Today best-selling book, The Quiet Storm: A Historical and Cultural Analysis of the Power, Passion, and Pain of R&B Groups. If you want to get one copy, you can go to Amazon, look up The Quiet Storm book, Amani, find it there. If you want to order multiple copies, then go to thequietstormbook.com, fill out the form, order the books. I'll send them to you. I love to share with you my love of R&B groups, the history from the 1950s to the mid 2000s, what happened to all the R&B groups, and what's going to happen next. Buy your book now. Thank you very much. See you soon.
You just talked a little bit about content creation and how you like to create when you're in that space. Your Instagram game is really strong. So I
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to talk a little bit about entrepreneurs. I mean, all businesses are always trying to improve their social media visibility and Instagram in particular. So what is your marketing and visibility strategy when in your practice? Like how do you decide what you're going to post, when you're going to post it? Do you do it yourself? Do you have a team? Like, what is your whole Instagram game for yourself, for your business?
Oh, it's always evolving, I can't
Mhm.
lie. But really, it depends what you're using your social media for, first of all. Like if you're trying to be an influencer, or if you're building a coaching business or a personal brand or whatnot. But I've always been very passionate about social media strategies. So right now, okay, let's zoom in on what I'm doing right now. I'm really focusing on, okay, first of all, there has to be a balance between strategy and enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like there has to be some form of, like I said, expression, like artistry, what just sharing myself, my soul, my heart. But then also, I really do want to speak directly to the person that I want to work with. So in that, I want to make her feel seen, understood. I have post-its all behind my computer here on my desk right now. And one of the questions I have on one of the post-its is, how do you want her to feel in your top 9 posts when she lands on your
Mm.
and then other things are, see herself reflected in the content. Can she understand my process? Can she understand my offer? Does she feel empowered towards, or does she feel guided towards an empowered decision on my page? So that's my rough strategy, I would say.
I love that. And then you do a mix of videos and carousels, and like, how do you decide when you're going to do what? Or is it just, again, is that kind of a fluid situation?
Mostly depends on how I feel, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. And I kind of take a look at my grid and I go, what's kind of missing here in terms of the balance? I'm not strict about that. If I feel like I want to do a talking head 2 in a row, I'll do it. If I feel like I don't want to, then I'm like, do I feel like writing, or is this more of a B-roll situation? What do I feel most inspired to do?
I like that. Instincts, gut instincts.
I try to do that as much as I can. Like, I am very strategy based, but at the same time, like, I need to feel excited. I don't know if you guys know anything about human design, but I'm a generator, a 3-5 generator, emotional generator. And so I guide myself with my gut instincts, like whether I get an or an inside of me and how I feel about things.
I
Hmm.
don't know much about human design. Can you explain that or define that for us?
Yeah, so human design is a system that mixes multiple modalities. It brings in astrology, it brings in the tree of life, it brings in um, what are the other ones? There's a few more. I used to use it a lot more in my coaching. I don't use it in my coaching anymore because I don't want to give somebody like constraints on who they're supposed to be, and I found that human design was kind of getting to that point. I even did it myself for a period of time, but really what it did for me when I first discovered it, you put in your, same thing like astrology, you put in your birth date, your time, location, and it gives you this chart that basically tells you how your energy works, essentially. Where your energy is consistent, where it's inconsistent, how to make decisions, navigate, life, essentially. And what I found was that it gave me a lot of permission to be who I actually was instead of who I was trying to be. So, an example of that would be you have different centers on your human design chart, and one of them is your will center. So if you have an undefined will, which I do, you shouldn't be trying to force yourself to do things consistently. It should be more of a feeling state thing, and you shouldn't be making promises to people either. You can say your intention, but you shouldn't be promising things.
Hmm.
So that gave me a huge permission slip to not do that anymore. I'm like, okay, I'm not meant to work in a consistent fashion. I'm meant to work in spurts where I will. The other day I got more work done in one day than I probably would in 2 weeks of consistent work. And then other days I, don't. I just let myself, go for a walk and do yoga and whatever else. But I know I'm a highly productive person. I just don't do it in the, typical consistent way. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting system. There's a lot to look at. I'm by no means the expert of all experts, but it is one tool. There's other tools if you like, personality assessments, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just self exploration. It's getting to know yourself better and asking, does this give me permission to be more of who I am, or is this making me feel constrained and put into a box?
I like I think it's always good to know about your performance, right? Like, what time of the day am I most creative? What time of the
Yeah.
day am I most practical? What day of the week? What month of the year? Like, all, and even to get astrological, is it during a full moon? Is it
Oh yeah.
not? Is it during around my birthday? Whatever that is. I mean, I just think like you said, experimenting and knowing a
Yep.
little bit more about your behavior when you're at your peak and when you're at your valleys is just, all of
Mhm.
that is just good to know.
Yeah, exactly. I would just caution people with any system. Are you looking to it for answers? Like, be
Hmm.
careful with that because it's not meant to guide you. You are meant to guide you.
What, I mean, so two-part question. First, business-wise, what have you found, what ways have you found to be the best in terms of acquiring new clients? Because there could be people watching this that want to kind of follow in your footsteps and grow their own practice. How have you
Mhm.
been able to acquire new clients and consistent clients?
The best way for me is really showing up very authentically online, and that might be a little scary for people at first. And the number one way for me is in the DMs. I talk to people. I encourage them to send me messages. I post a lot of hand raiser opportunities for people to message me or comment on things if they're interested. And then I get into the DMs and I have real conversations with people and maybe get them on a call, or maybe just send links right there on
Interesting.
Instagram specifically.
Right, right. And then in terms of behaviors that you've observed over your years of experience coaching people, what would you say would be the most common reason that people just kind of stay stuck?
They just don't trust themselves. They
Hmm.
haven't built self-trust. It's a huge area that I think doesn't get enough attention. People talk about, you know, confidence all the time. They talk about consistency all the time, but where does all of that come from? It comes from trusting yourself first, right? So I often share there are two major ways to build self trust. One is by keeping promises to yourself. Okay. So easy for us to not keep our promises to ourselves. It's so easy to put our promises to ourselves at the bottom of the list because there just isn't enough time left in the day or whatever. But when you do that, you are consistently breaking trust with yourself. You are abandoning yourself or you're betraying yourself. And you wouldn't trust a friend who didn't keep their promises or didn't keep their word or didn't show up, do what they said they were going to do. So when you do that, you erode your confidence as well. And that's when more and more self-doubt creeps in. So that's the first way. The second way to build self-trust is to take risks. So when you take risks, you prove one of two things to yourself. The first thing is if you fail, you prove your own resilience. And I talk about resilience as well. There's proven ways to build resilience. And the second thing you might prove to yourself is that you can do things. You can succeed, right? So if you succeed or you fail, you still prove something to yourself, but you don't get that opportunity if you don't take the risk.
What has been a risk that you've taken that you're most proud of?
Oh man, I feel like I've taken so many.
Give us the top three then. Give us the top three.
Like if I'm being really truly honest, leaving my marriage was the biggest risk I ever took. I mean, probably there were others like leaving my hometown at 18, but this one felt the riskiest because I have two children. And I really wasn't sure how it was going to work out, to be honest with you. You know, in the state of the world. And it was the best risk I ever took because yeah, I don't want to go too far into it, but this was 3 years ago now, but I am now in a new relationship. I am engaged.
Aw, congratulations. If you're just listening and not watching, she held up a beautiful engagement ring on her finger. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, my fiance proposed to me at the beginning of the year, and it's just night and day in terms of my experience of a relationship. And I knew it was possible. You know, I tried so hard in my marriage to do everything I could to make it work, to become the person that I needed to be in the relationship, to fix things, to, you know, air quotes, fix myself. And eventually I had to come to that decision that, hey, you can't force a square peg into a round hole, and this is the jump that you need to make. And so the universe pushed me, and I made the leap, and it was the scariest thing for sure that I ever did, but I did it. I made it. And not only that, I got my movie worthy romance, in which
Aw.
I there was times where I was like, maybe I'm just not cut out for that in this life. Maybe I'm just in for like a practical marital situation.
Yeah,
But no,
partnership. Yeah.
yeah, but no, yeah, I got to have it all really, and that's the number one thing. Some other things that have been big risks, like I mentioned, leaving home and moving from the suburbs to a big city by myself at 18. That was a huge one. But like when you're young, it's kind of easier to take like these big, bold risks, right? And starting my podcast a few years ago was another one. Co-authoring the books. I'm going to be writing my own first solo authored book in the coming year, 2 years. We'll see how long it takes me to finish it.
Oh, congratulations.
But that one will probably feel like a big one to have my own voice just be the full spotlight in a novel, because it's been a goal of mine, not a novel, a book that's been a goal of mine for as long as I can actually remember. So
Nice.
So
Okay.
you had said your divorce softened you instead of hardening you. How so?
Yeah. Well, it was part of my goal, really. I really wanted to be able to relax into my feminine energy, because growing up, I was really taught that being feminine meant being weak. And also, I was very much taught that men were not safe. And I didn't want to believe those things, you know? So I had to do a lot of deprogramming of myself to understand what the power of femininity was and how to navigate the dating world in that as a single mom, and how can I be feminine but not naive, and you know not go into the typical like overly masculine energy that a person who is a high achiever type A person would get into in situations where they feel unsafe, you know what I mean? So, yeah, the divorce kind of just, it was the culmination of a lot of personal work that I'd already been doing for many years prior. I would say I really went hard into my personal healing, growth, development phase for at least 5 to 7 years before the marriage ended. And then I just felt like a pressure bubble popped for me when it was finally over, and that I could really just be and feel safe being myself.
Hey, friends. How many times have you read a boring business book that tells you about the same tactics over and over and over again? Get comfortable at being uncomfortable. Don't forget to manage your time. All these silly things that we know, right? When you read my book, Sales Tales, The Hustle, Humor, and Lessons of a Life in Sales, I promise you, there's nothing boring about it. It goes in the order of a standard sale, from prospecting all the way through asking for the sale. And it's hilarious stories and statistics that will help you grow your business, relate to the actual business of being an entrepreneur or a salesperson, and it will give you practical, tactical, digestible snacks that you can apply immediately after reading. So head over to wherever you buy your books and look for Mandi Graziano, Sales Tales, The Hustle, Humor, and Lessons from a Life in Sales. Can't wait to hear what you think.
So we have come to the time of the show where we flip the script and we allow you to ask both myself and Mandi a question, any question you'd like to ask us. Nothing is off limits. So who do you want to ask the question to first, and what is said question?
Sure, Amani, my question's for you, actually. I'm
Okay.
curious to know if you have ever intentionally manifested.
Ooh, intentionally manifested. Have I ever? I'm thinking, maybe just with like writing my second book and the results, and just kind of like the finished product of the second book, because it was such a long journey that I had to kind of do that. So when I think back, that's the most recent memory about what happened. I'm trying to think if there was another one in terms of moving to another city, but I think the book is the best example that comes to mind currently.
Okay, tell me a little bit more. Like, how did you manifest? What was the practice or
Oh, just
process?
like um I think it was on the vision board, and just really focusing on how it would feel and what it would look like in terms of a finished product, like a book launch, like a tour, sharing the book with friends, like putting that in my mind before I'd even really started to write it. The thesis and outline had been done, but really before I had started to write it, just picturing what it would look like when I was done and when I was sharing it with people. That's what was involved.
Did it work?
I think overall it did. Yes, it was a long road, but it worked. Yes,
It worked. He's a USA Today bestseller. Everybody wants that book. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think it worked.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Okay, I wanted to know because you seemed like a little bit more skeptical during the conversation.
Not really skeptical, but say for example, when it comes to manifesting things about like love, that's where I get a little bit of the side eye because I'm kind of curious.
Mm.
So that's kind of it. But other stuff like business, maybe personal,
Okay,
maybe I'm a little bit more. But when it comes to love, I'm a little bit like side-eyed a little bit.
interesting. Are you single?
I am single, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I totally manifested my man. So that was one of my most intentional and best manifestations of all time.
Okay. We'll ask you how you did that when you finish. But it's
I
Manny's.
know. I was like, Amani, aren't you going to ask her what she did? Like,
How did you do that? Get some water first. Get some water first, and then tell us how you did that.
I'm so sorry. I'm just at the tail end of a cold.
Yes.
that's
And
okay.
I was just like really hoping I wasn't going to get a coughing attack during this.
That's
all right.
okay. Everybody's getting over this. This thing is taking over everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know if it doesn't stop, I may need to run and get a lozenge.
It's okay.
But no, Mandy, I do have my question for you.
Okay.
And it is, okay, so you're into manifesting. Clearly, you've got your vision board right there. What do you find to be your biggest struggle with manifesting? What's the toughest part or message, like part of the process or messaging that you find like confusing or, unclear?
That's a good question. I'm a strong, like, so I'll give an example. So I've been on this health journey for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And like when I first started, my practice was at night when I would fall asleep, I would intentionally think about what I would look like if I got to where I wanted to be, or I would like envision myself like working out at the gym and like being able to lift heavier than I could before, or like the way my arms would look, or like how I would feel. Like I would go in the feel thing. The thing that I feel is difficult is like I am a great visualizer, but when it comes to manifesting the feeling, I get blocked sometime where I'm like, okay, I know how this looks, but like, how does this feel when I get to that moment? And that's like with everything, like whether that's like my next book, or whether that's like what retirement looks like, or whether that's like, whatever that is, like I can tell you visually what it looks like, but how does it feel? I have a block there probably.
Okay. You're not blocked. You're not blocked.
Oh.
No, you're not blocked. So my advice for you in a situation like this would be stop trying to force the feeling when you're visualizing. It's not required, right? And I think that a lot of people have that same experience that you do. So I'm glad you shared that. So what I would say is, okay, I'm sure you know how you'd like to feel, right? You can probably name the feeling words. I would suggest you think of other things that make you feel that way, or just intentionally ask, how can I bring this feeling into my day-to-day more? Right? So I think a lot of people think they have to be able to have this strong feeling and emotion while they're visualizing, and that just creates resistance because you're like, oh, I should be able to do this. I should. When you're shoulding on yourself in any kind of manifestation or goal practice, it's a big red flag. Stop yourself right there and go, I don't need to do that. I just need to choose what feels good, period. So even with belief, like let's explore that one for 1 second too. If you don't fully believe it's possible, that's okay. That's okay. You just need to focus on what feels good for you right now. And then what I call it nurturing the willingness to believe. So we're moving towards belief because that feels better than trying to force it. Like I'm going to flip on my belief like a light switch. That's not going to work. So annoying.
That's okay. You're okay. Take your time. Take a sip of water or tea or.
I have so many drinks beside me.
I know. I've counted 3.
I'm glad because the other ones are empty now. So, yeah, you're going to want to just focus on feeling good now and getting into the state of allowing. Because when you're in a tightly gripped state, you're not in the state of allowing. So, those ideas, aligned action, inspiration is not going to come to you when you're all, like I say, crunchy, right? You want to just let that go. Okay, I don't believe this right now, but it's what I want. This is what I want, but like I can't fully see it, I can't fully feel it. That's okay. What would feel really good for me right now? What would feel really juicy and delicious for me right now? How can I get into that groove of like being in a good place? Maybe it's not like, high vibe or whatever, but it's a step or two up from whatever thoughts you're having that don't feel good. And the more you can kind of just get into that way of living, of that like joyful, grateful, in the present moment living, the more chances that ideas are going to come to you, opportunities are going to come to you. I always kind of give a visual where it's like when you are open, when your energy is open, when your mind is open, you're up, right? Like you're looking around in the world and you're observing and you're participating in the world. When you are focused on forcing, figuring out anything like that, you kind of put blinders up. You kind of go tunnel vision. You kind of shut down in your ability to observe and perceive, right? And when you do that, when you shut down your ability to observe and perceive, you're going to miss out on opportunities. You're going to miss out on sudden like ping, downloads that you get in the shower or when you're on a walk with the dog or whatever. You're just shutting yourself down. So we don't need to worry about attaching the belief and the emotion to the vision and feeling it strongly. That can come in time, right? We can allow that to build because we don't need the proof. We need the evidence. We just need the evidence. So your job is to be in a state where you can actually begin to gather evidence.
I love
Okay.
that. Be in the
Okay.
state, gather evidence.
There you go. Write that down. So I have two final questions for you.
Yeah.
Number one, how did you manifest your current man?
Okay, you want to hear my whole process? I'll give it to you. So when I was going through my separation, I moved out of, the master bedroom I bought a bed, put it in my office, and it became my little like cocoon. And I would go in there at night and I would do my, light my Palo Santo, and I would journal and I decided to come up with a list. I wrote down on I don't know how many pages. I have to go find the journal. I've looked at it a couple times since, but I wrote down different areas of what makes up a person, right? So like health, business, family. I don't know how many. There was maybe 5 or 6 different categories, and I wrote down all of the different things that I would like to have in a person in those different areas. I think it ended up being 80, 90 different things by the time I was through with all my different pages. And after that, I kind of tucked it away. Honestly, I wasn't looking at it every day. I just got clear of this idea of the person that I wanted. And then as I would go to sleep at night, Mandy, very similar to you, I would be laying in my bed and I would imagine how it would feel with this person's arms around me at night. And I would just imagine how loved I felt. And I would imagine how he felt about me and how I felt about him and how I felt in his arms and all of those feeling states, right? And I also very much stayed open. Like I was just describing to you, because the best things never come to us the way we think they're going to come to us.
Agreed.
And there's so many things that happen in life and we look back and we're like, wow, if you would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be here with doing this person and doing this, I wouldn't have believed you, or. And so when I met my fiance, I was not thinking like this is the love of my life right away. Okay. This was not like an instant snap my fingers and like, love at first sight moment. there was connection when we first started talking, absolutely. But my first impression was kind of like, oh, we'll be friends, you know. He's a funny guy, whatever. But I was like, I'm just gonna be open here. Curiosity is one of the best energies for manifestation, hands down. It's a very playful, open energy. So I went into it with that, and I was like, let's just see. Let's just see where this goes, what happens here. And it didn't take long, to be honest with you. Like, I think it was third date. I was like, okay. Okay, I'm moving in. No, I'm just kidding. But it was that way. That's how it happened. And then it just revealed itself more and more to me that this person was more than I actually even could have thought to ask for. And I did end up going back through my list well into our relationship, actually. It's not like I took it out right at the beginning and I was like, check, did you meet all of these boxes? I didn't do that. But when I did look at it, he did end up meeting, like, I think it was 80 to 90% of the things that I had written down.
Nice.
And then the things that I didn't write down, I was like, okay, well, you know, they're negotiables.
Okay. Good story. Now, if you were going to go back and talk to Millie right when she left home at 18 and took that risk and give her advice based on everything you've experienced and learned so far in life, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, I would tell her to be more intentional about what she wanted. Because I didn't realize I could be more specific about what I wanted my life to look like. And when I say that, I mostly mean in terms of relationships, because I didn't really realize you could be so specific about who you wanted to end up with, right? Like, I just kind of thought romance is romance and you meet who you meet and that's what's meant to be. And, you know, as long as it's better than what you grew up with, then you just do that. You go along with it, and one step leads to another, and then you're married with kids. But yeah, I knew I could be very intentional about what I wanted to do with my life, right, and my career, but I didn't have that same permission, in a sense, with relationships. So I would tell her that, and I would tell her that she's very worthy, you know, of real, true love and proper treatment, for sure.
Nice.
Excellent answer. Mandi, take us home.
Well, you've given us so much time today, so much insight and some things to think about. We really appreciate that. How can we give back to you, lift you up, and give you the same support you've given us this last 45 minutes?
Oh, I don't know. Just come hang out with me on Instagram. Just come on over, hang out with me on Instagram. I'm always putting new things out. You know, I've always got a new masterclass coming out, or some kind of a mini course, intro course. I'm about to relaunch my podcast. It was on hiatus for the last, oh my gosh, to say 3 years. It's insane that it was, I meant to take the summer off, and then, you know, my mom passed away and I got divorced, and I was like, I'm rebuilding my life. So that's why I bought this brand new beautiful microphone that I'm using for the first time today.
Oh, wow. It sounds great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I've got my setup, and I can't wait. So come on over and check that out when it gets up and running, hopefully within the next few weeks.
Tell us about your podcast. What's the name of it? What's it about? How can we find it?
Yes, it's called The Milli Fox Show, and it's actually already exists on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. It's on all the platforms already, because I didn't ever take it down. It's just that the episodes are quite old at this point. So if you want to go over and subscribe to it, you'll get the notifications when the brand new podcast comes up.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, we appreciate you being here with us. It was great to learn more about you and kind of your specialty, and it's very intriguing. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your stories. We're going to give you a round of applause, and we'll put you back in the green room. So just hang tight with us. And once again, thanks to Milli Fox for appearing with us. Yes.
Thank you. Great. Thanks for being here.
Yes. All right, Mandi, we're finished here. Another phenomenal show. Who do we have to look forward to next week?
we have Lauren Bain, who
Yes.
you know and I do not know. So what should we look forward to for next week?
We're going to have a very in-depth discussion about branding and what you stand for. She's going to put us on the hot seat, so it's going to be exciting. I can't wait.
Good. I like the hot seat. That
We
sounds
love a
fun.
good hot seat. So
Yeah.
thanks again to our guest today, Milli Fox. Make sure you follow her and make sure you rate, review, and share this podcast and live stream with whomever you are friends with and whoever can benefit. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. And with that, we will see you next week, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. on the West for Adventures in Business Live.
See
Take
you.
care.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to Adventures in Business. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast on the platform that you're currently listening it on. And don't forget to share it with your friends and anybody that might be as much of the business nerds as Amani and I are. See you next time for another captivating interview.